And continuing with our preparation for the final assessment, we created two booklets of notes that helped students be able to see the connections between the hero's journey, written by Joseph Campbell, and the novel The Lightning Thief. So we created two of these books, book 1 and book 2. This video will be for book 1. So what we did was we wrote on the front cover of it, do Percy's experiences in The Lightning Thief align with the hero's journey? So there's the question. So we're using evidence, we're selecting evidence from the hero's journey to align it with the experiences in The Lightning Thief. And we find out about those experiences through quotes from The Lightning Thief. So just before we move on to the quote, the word align, on one of the days that we gave notes, I gave two important vocabulary, and the first one was align, and it means to line up or make parallel, to bring into cooperation or agreement with a particular group, party, cause, etc. So it's lining up. It means the quotes or the events from the hero's journey align with the Lightning Thief, because Joseph Campbell, as we read in the introduction to the hero's journey, it said that he discovered many common patterns that are in many hero myths and stories from around the world. So he found these patterns, and these patterns are called archetypes. And that's what we're going to talk about when we talk about the general idea of what the hero goes through in his journey that I covered in the last 3 videos, going over with the close read of the hero's journey. So the archetype, which was the second important vocabulary that I had you put on the back of the first book, reads, for archetype, a model after which other things are copied or repeated, like a pattern. So there's that word again, pattern and archetype, that works together. So that's what Joseph Campbell was creating or looking for when he wrote the hero's journey. So the first question, or the first quote that we think about is Percy's experience, the quote from The Lightning Thief, and that first quote is, "But Mr. Brunner expected me to be as good as everybody else, despite the fact that I have dyslexia and attention deficit disorder, and I have never made above a C- in my life." And that's from page 7 of the novel. So there's our quote from The Lightning Thief. So if we go back to the hero's journey and we look at this document, and it's a long document. There's 3 acts and many stages in each act. So we've got a lot to look through. So I'll give you a hint as to where you should be looking, and it's mainly on this front page, the first act. So it's going to be in these 4 stages that end on the back of that first page right there. And to give you even more of a hint, the quotes that I selected go in order of the stages. So just remember that as you're looking at this. So I had underlined dyslexia and attention deficit disorder. We talked in depth about Percy being frustrated with himself because he had dyslexia and attention deficit disorder, which made it very hard for him in school. But we also learned in the novel that his dyslexia was actually his ability to read ancient Greek, that made his ability to read modern English a little tougher. And his attention deficit disorder, we learn, and we'll learn it in the section from chapter 8, that his attention deficit disorder is just his battle reflexes developing. So what has hurt him in his ordinary world which is the stage where this that aligns with this, helps him in the other world that he goes to become a hero in. So we look over here in the hero's journey, and we find the ordinary world, and we read that. I have my gist statement, which reads, heroes live in the ordinary world. They have an ability that makes them feel out of place. So we just talked about that with the attention deficit disorder. So we wrote the stage of the hero's journey. We wrote the ordinary world. Then I found the exact quote from the hero's journey that aligns. That aligns with the quote from the novel. You can't just find any quote. It's got to make sense with the quote that you get from the novel. So the quote from the hero's journey reads, they possess some ability or characteristic that makes them feel out of place. I almost wrote that word for word in my gist statement, but if you look in the hero's journey, in the ordinary world, you'll see that quote right there. They possess some ability or characteristic that makes them feel out of place. So I got that right from here. I just went back and did a close reading of it. I knew what I was looking for because I had remembered reading it from yesterday. So that's how I found that. All right, so we are going to then move on to this next quote from The Lightning Thief. And it says, Percy's experience, quote from The Lightning Thief. The next quote reads, the freak weather continued, which didn't help my mood. One night a thunderstorm blew out the windows of my dorm room. A few days later, the biggest tornado ever spotted in the Hudson Valley touched down only 50 miles from Yancey Academy. And that's from page 17 of the novel. So what I am going to ask you to do now, what you should do, because you should be able to do this stuff on your own right now, is I want you to look through Act 1 of the hero's journey, Act 1 separation, and you want to look at each of these stages here and see which one might align with this. And if you remember, I said they happen in chronological order, so that'll make it a little easier to find. A few of the things that stand out that help me find what it is that I need to do, or what I need to find in the hero's journey, is the storm blew out the windows of my dorm room. And a few days later, the biggest tornado ever spotted in the Hudson Valley touched down only 50 miles from Yancey Academy. So that's describing some pretty dangerous weather there. So that might give you a hint. So what I want you to do is pause this video right now and make an attempt to find a quote, to find the stage that aligns with this quote from the Lightning Thief. So you're going to look through your copy, the front page of your hero's journey here, and find something that aligns with this quote. So pause and find that. You can turn it back on and see if you're right. So go ahead and do that now. Okay, I'm assuming that you're turning it back on now after you've tried. So when you went back to the hero's journey and you looked at the next stage in order, that's the call to adventure. Now I wrote the wrong one and wrote a quote that didn't match with it, so I just blacked it out. But it's the call to adventure is the one that goes along with this. And the quote from the call to adventure is, usually there is a discovery, some event or some danger that starts them on the heroic path. So that's the one that you found from Call to Adventure, because Percy recognized the danger and knew that he had to do something about it. And later on in the novel, when you find out who is sending these dangerous storms to Yancey Academy and to Camp Half-Blood, you realize the magnitude of this danger that Percy is in. All right, so you have finished then the first book. Go on to the second video to get some help with the second book.